following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. We are back talking ball in the zone. I'm Ralph Tycho, Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. And Jeff Kallman joins me. How are you, sir?
So far, so good.
Good. We have a long Met game going on. It's September, and this is something we won't see next year, but there's an unlimited amount of call-ups. Teams have stacked their bullpens, so you get a lot of situational changes that literally make it a 5-hour baseball game, and it's too much.
Well, situational pitching has been part of baseball for quite a long time now. This is nothing new other than the volume of the call-ups this time around, more than this year than I remember last year. And like you said, that's not going to be the case next year. But that said, this year, a general trend seems to have been that a lot of the bullpens this year have not been as solid as they've been in years past. Just mentioned the Mets, and they've had a bullpen that's been a toxic waste dump for the most part for this year. The Nationals struggled with their bullpen for a lot of the year until very recently, and that's true of a lot of teams too.
Well, and they're talking now expansion, the possibility of expansion, which is...
that would not be a good idea.
It would not be a good idea. They've got to settle the ballpark situation in both Tampa Bay, and in Oakland before anything happens along those lines. Even if and when they settle those ballpark situations, I just don't think further expansion is that good an idea. I mean, why give, pardon the expression, but why give the bastards any more room? The last expansion helped inspire this convoluted wild card system that we have now, and that has generally not been that great for the game. At least not until or unless they ever want to think about fixing the postseason layout so that the World Series primacy is restored. Because by the time you get to the series, there's a lot of saturation. But with 30 teams, you have to have some sort of playoff system that just goes beyond. Oh, I've got the perfect one, though I don't think anybody else will listen. I'm listening now. What you do with, and I've talked about this before in my Thornberry Fields Forever columns and other writings, what you do with a 3-division league is the division winner with the best regular season record gets a round 1 bye. Eliminate the wild cards. The other 2 division winners play each other in a best-of-3. Winner of that set meets the division winner with the best regular season record in a best-of-5 league championship series, and then on to the World Series. But you eliminate a lot of pennant races for mediocre. No, you will strengthen pennant races, and I will tell you why. Why on earth are we dealing with teams and fans who are biting their nails with all the thrills and chills down the stretch to see who's going to finish in second place? This would restore incentive to teams. They're not just fighting for the second place scrap. It's division title or see you next year. This is going to put a lot more incentive into teams. Well, I don't think baseball is ready to give up those little mini series that lead up. You mean the owners aren't ready to give up the extra dollars? Well, sooner or later, someone in this game is going to have to persuade them and everybody that the common good of the game is not the same thing as making money for it. Ooh, I wish I had the persuasive talent to be able to do that. Would that I had it. Yeah. But right now I don't. Right now I'm not encouraged because of the lack of foresight that seems to be natural to the current commissioner and to too many of the owners.
There are some foresighted owners, but when they talk, it falls on deaf ears.
Well, a lot of it is the greed that's become ingrained in the American way, in big business, and baseball is big business, and not just big business. Greed is something that transcends the party that you vote for, the job that you have, whatever it is. It's
there's greed at every station of life, from the lowest level workers to the highest level executive and all stations in between. You're going to find greed. That's human nature.
Right.
But somewhere, somehow, some way, I would love it if those few enlightened among baseball's current owners, and for that matter, the few enlightened under baseball's current Players Association leadership, actually trained that enlightenment and started talking the common good of the game is not necessarily the same thing as making money for it.
No question about that. I agree with you 100%. But
and if nothing else,
about greed with permission, you throw in the big bucks that these guys have. It's almost like you give them permission to be greedy.
Well, let's talk about something that happens in that regard before the season even begins. And I think I talked about this on a previous podcast, but it's worth bringing up again. Before the first pitch of a season is even thrown, teams have an average of $60 to $90 million extra dollars in their coffers for that year, thanks to all manner and level of broadcast fees and internet fees. Free money, basically. They get that's in their bank before the season even begins. With all that, why should we be putting up with tanking teams? Why should we be dealing continuously with this convoluted postseason system? When you can put $90 million in your pocket before you even go to work, you get what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, the incentive is absolutely gone.
Yeah. This applies to all 30 teams. Now, each of the 30 teams has their own other individuated revenue streams, but this is stuff that goes to all the teams before the first pitch of a season is even thrown.
Hey,
and it goes the broadcast and internet fees.
You talk about incentives being gone. If the minimum salary is $250,000+ a year, where's your incentive? Well, I mean, when you go out to play when you're actually going out on the field and playing the game, whatever your salary is, and I notice this every time I sit down to watch a game, whatever your pay is, guys tend to forget what they're making, what they're not making when they start on that first of 9 innings. The competitive spirit takes them over. You hear them talk about it all the time. The players do, the managers do. They're not thinking about their salaries unless they're in a walk year. But as soon as they put on that uniform, strap on that gear, slap on those gloves, pick up those bats, and the umpire hollers play ball, they forget all that and they become competitors. That's their built-in incentive right there. It's what happens after the games. Do they have the incentive to prepare and to improve and to fight as if
anybody who asks you that question, your first reply should be, did you ever play professional baseball? Because professional baseball at any level requires work, and lots of it, Willie Stargell notwithstanding.
Right.
He once said famously, the umpire doesn't say work ball. But playing baseball professionally requires lots of work.
I understand that it does. And I just think that if you're on third base and you think you know the expression, you're born on third base with a silver spoon in your mouth, the owners have that, and it all starts at the top. Look at what the unions have created in terms of a money-making, guaranteed everybody makes money. I don't know. I wish
they do, but we're talking about a slightly different animal here, because number one, I don't have a crowd of 55,000 people in my house and 55 million people watching me on television or listening to me on the radio while I do my work. A baseball player does.
No question.
He's out there in the middle of a phenomenal pressure cooker. Just to be able to come up to the plate and swing the bat and face a Max Scherzer or a Jacob deGrom or a Justin Verlander. I don't think that any of the fans who complain about these so-called overstuffed, overplayed millionaires would ever want to take their place, especially if and when they come up short in the biggest moments of the season. And any of them who says they would, they're lying.
Okay.
And we forget that. We forget that way too often.
We also forget we're talking about world-class athletes,
we're also talking about human beings.
Right.
They were human beings before they became world-class athletes. And until or unless Joe and Jane Fan really are willing to go down and pick up a bat and face a Max Scherzer or slap on a glove and try to stop a line drive by Peter Alonso, they ought to sit down and shut up. It's that simple.
I know that.
And speaking of Justin Verlander,
I know of their talents, but the reward system is out of whack. The way it's set up, you're paid for
you're paid for what you've done. You have done basically.
Right.
Any professional sport is a crapshoot as far as what you're going to do next year or the next 5 years is concerned. You're basically getting paid for what you have done already, is what it comes down to. And I don't know if anybody can come up with anything better. But remember, not every baseball player is making the same annual salary, no matter how high those salaries are. Everyone's getting it differently, and that too is based as much on what they've done in their previous seasons as what they're liable to do or hoped to do in the seasons to come. Though speaking of Justin Verlander, if he wins the Cy Young Award this year, he could make some history with that. Because he'd be the only American League pitcher so far ever to win the Cy Young in the same year he threw a no-hitter. 5 National League pitchers have done that.
That is a terrific stat.
Yeah, going backwards, 5 National League pitchers have done that. Jake Arrieta won the Cy Young Award and pitched a no-hitter that year. Clayton Kershaw of the Dodgers pitched a no-hitter in one of the seasons he won the Cy Young Award. So did Roy Halladay. So did Mike Scott of the Astros. I think that was in 1986. And Sandy Koufax did it twice.
I would think that would make him stand out in the field of candidates this year. And,
Verlander looks like he has the inside track on the Cy Young Award. His rotation mate Garrett Cole is in the Cy Young conversation, and if Cole somehow finished second in the voting, it would be the first time that rotation mates ever finished 1 and 2 in any Cy Young Award voting.
Wow,
that never happened. That's never happened before.
Drysdale
including. And remember, Koufax won 3 Cy Youngs, a major league award, not one in each league. Drysdale won the award in '62, but he didn't finish second in any of the years that Koufax won the award. That would have been a good guess. The only other rotation mates that ever did that were in the National League. That was Randy Johnson and Curt Schilling in 2001.
Well, there's a rotation from those times. The Giants had Marichal and Perry. Marichal never won a Cy Young Award.
It's funny you bring that up, because I thought to myself,
What if Koufax was not in the league in those years? Who would have won the Cy Young awards that he won?
I have
some answers, and I will give you some answers, but some of them may surprise you.
Okay.
If you go by the wins above replacement level player measurement, and if Cy Young Award voters were aware of it in 1963, and Koufax wasn't in the league, the winner would have been Dick Ellsworth of the Cubs. He happened to have his career year that year. He won 22 games. He posted his best single season earned run average of 2.11, and he actually ended up with more wins above replacement level than Marichal did that year. But there's a reason. Ellsworth pitched A, in the most notorious hitter's park in the National League, and B, a lousy team still mired in that loony-toony College of Coaches rotating managers experiment. He had to really work his butt off to win 22 games. Marichal pitched on a better team.
Elvin Tappy wasn't an easy coach to please.
From what I've gathered, none of the College of Coaches, other than maybe Bob Kennedy, were that easy to please.
Well, Bob Kennedy lived in Alameda, California. He was the father of a Kennedy. There was a catcher with San Diego, Terry Kennedy, as a matter of fact. And was big in
1965, Koufax won. In 65, Koufax won again. If he wasn't in the league that year, Marichal would have won that award. No question. If you go by WAR, Marichal actually led the majors with 10.3 WAR. Koufax was fourth in the show with 8.1. Koufax won the award because A, the 26 wins, B, the fourth no-hitter in as many seasons, and he proved that practice makes perfect, plus pinching the pennant clincher on 2 days' rest at the end of a wild pennant race with the Giants. That probably got him the award, but if Koufax isn't in the league in 65, I think that Cy Young Award is Marichal's. In 66, 66 is the last Cy Young Award for Koufax, the last year of his career, and the last year that the Cy Young Award was a major league award. If he's not in the league, I think Marichal wins it again. Whoa. So with Sandy Koufax in the league, Juan Marichal was not able to win 2 Cy Young Awards that he would have won if Koufax was not in the league.
Which proves one thing. There has not been as dominant a pitcher for a short period of time as Sandy Koufax in the history of baseball.
In terms of peak value, his equal hasn't come yet,
and won't.
And we're distinguishing between peak and career value. The closest to peak value, the closest to Koufax in terms of peak value in the last, say, 25 years, it's probably a toss-up between Clayton Kershaw and Randy Johnson. And we're talking peak value, not career value.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing you may have noticed was missing in that little Cy Young Award discussion we had, Whitey Ford. Now, in 63, if Koufax was not in the league, Whitey Ford would not have won the 1963 Cy Young Award. Partly because he wasn't as good as Koufax and Marichal were at missing bats. He lived on the ground ball as well as staying away from walks. And the other reason he wouldn't have is because he got better run support than either Koufax or Marichal or Ellsworth got in 1963.
Right.
Now, Ford did win a Cy Young Award in 1961. But if it was 63 and there's no Koufax, Ford, I don't think, would have been in the conversation despite 24 wins.
You mentioned 61. Do you think that Yankee team was as good as any you've ever seen? I do.
I don't. I think they're overrated. I think I can name you 5 Yankee teams that were better than them. 1998, 1927, 1939, 1923, and 1937. And for me personally, I throw in the 1954 Yankees, if only because there's something a little sad about a team that wins 103 games and doesn't win the pennant, just because the Indians chose 54 to have their career year. But I think those teams were better
than the 61 Yankees. The 61 Yankees are overrated as a team because of all the home runs and because of the Mantle Maris home run chase.
Well,
but there are at least 5 or 6 Yankee teams that were better.
3 guys who were primarily catchers who hit over 20 home runs.
Except that one of them did no catching that year, really. Yogi Berra was almost a full-time left fielder.
Yeah.
But the home runs overrate the 61 Yankees.
Okay, but let me just say they stayed healthy the whole year, the 61 Yankees. They had pitchers like Raleigh Sheldon and Stafford that had peak years. They were damn good. I mean,
that's it. They were damn good. They were not the best team of all time. They're not even the best team in Yankee history.
Well, let me throw one team in Yankee history in there, as long as we're talking along the lines of great Yankee teams that you didn't mention, and that was the 53 Yankee World Champion team. Right in the midst of that is probably the last year of their 5-year dynasty. They were great.
They were a great team, but the 1998, 1927, 1939, 1923, 1937, and 1954 Yankees were better.
Okay. You are a wealth of incredible knowledge.
There's some knowledge I wish I didn't have, including what happened to poor Dick Ellsworth in 1966. That was the year I'm sure he'd love to forget, not just because his ERA barely missed reaching 400 and he was hung with a major league leading 22 losses, but because of something that happened to him in spring training.
What's that?
He should have figured it was going to be that kind of year when Topps released his baseball card that spring. Bad enough the player on the face of the card was right-handed, Ellsworth left-hander. Worse, the picture was Ken Hubbs, the second baseman who was killed in a February '64 plane crash.
Whoa.
That card embarrassed everybody who was involved with the game and the hobby.
Well, those things happen. I don't know if you remember that I told you once I worked for Topps as the Topps rep in the 80s.
You did mention
and 90s.
it.
Yeah.
And I get that those things. I get that. Yeah.
Cy Berger was the guy who made all the decisions in those days, and I guess he messed one up. But
in a way, and I don't mean to denigrate the man by any means, but in a way, they really should have known better, because the picture of Hubbs that showed up on the face of Dick Ellsworth's '66 card was a picture that Topps had used at least 3 times before on Ken Hubbs cards. It's not like they were unfamiliar with the guy.
Yes, in those days, Aaron was one of those who had his face on 3 or 4 different cards, the same picture.
Well, and there were some comedians among the players. I still remember a card in the late 50s of Lou Burdett of the Braves. He posed in a windup with a left-hander's glove on his hand and the ball still in the glove.
Right. No more comedian, though, than Billy Ripken and his famous...
We won't go there. We won't go there.
We don't need to. But
I think there was a player who posed with a broken bat, with the handle dangling off the bat. And then there was the prank that... Yeah, well, Aurelio Rodriguez, who became a shortstop and a very good one with the Tigers later, he played the ultimate stunt. He had the Angels bat boy dress up in his uniform and be photographed for the card. The kid's name was Leonard Garcia.
Whoa. You're Alan Blumkin-like in your knowledge and your trivial knowledge.
Well, I did a little research on the Ellsworth card. And
I mentioned
it's not
the 61 Yankee team, and you came up right away with 5 Yankee teams that you thought were better. And
well, I had a little help from Rob Neyer's Big Book of Baseball Lineups. He analyzed the Yankees, and from that, he concluded, and I did my own poking around to verify it, that those teams were the better teams. I also poked around about the faithful Dick Ellsworth card. it's actually not the most valuable card that Dick Ellsworth ever appeared on. The most valuable card he ever showed up on was a 64 card that he shared with Koufax and Bob Friend of the Pirates that showed the National League's 1963 ERA leaders. That card is worth $142.48. Probably mostly because of Koufax, but Ellsworth is on that card. The Ellsworth Hubs mix-up is worth no more than $55 and change. And that's according to ComC, a Redmond, Washington-based card and comic trading site.
And I will ask a question of those people. The card is worth that. Has anybody paid that much for a card? For that card?
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, human beings being what there are, there's always the morbidity factor at play, especially if they're aware of the mishap on the Dick Ellsworth card.
Right.
All I can say is that Dick Ellsworth was a good pitcher who pitched in a lot of hard luck on some bad teams, and I hope life since baseball has been kind to him.
I do too, because there were guys. Ernie Broglio was one of those guys. Ray Sadecki, good, solid pitchers in the National League at that time, who were totally overshadowed by Koufax. And
Ernie Broglio became another story entirely, and the best news is that until he died this summer, Ernie Broglio made a very pleasant life for himself. With a good sense of humor about the trade, he never got tired of talking about it to people.
Yeah, a Bay Area
and he even struck up a friendship with Lou Brock himself,
whom he was traded for.
Yeah, they became friends in due course. As a matter of fact, they were both at an old-timers game at Wrigley Field, and when Brock was announced, it was wild cheers, and Broglio was announced, it was a lot of booing, and Broglio took it good-naturedly.
Nice that his ego wasn't affected.
They should. I wish somebody had thought would think to put this as his epitaph on his tombstone. Broglio said it himself, and he was quite proud of it. Some guys in the Hall of Fame I played with, and some I helped put there.
That's great.
You have to love a sense of humor like that.
Of a self-effacing human being who doesn't have a big league me kind of attitude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some guys who played a year or two in the big league, 5 years later, 10 years, 20 years later, they still have that "what have you done for me lately" type thing, that self-entitlement, that argumentative way about preserving their ego and their reputation. So I lost track of the fact that he passed away. That was this year?
I believe he had cancer.
Horrible disease.
But everything I've read about that man tells me that if you were to ask him, he would tell you he had a wonderful, rich life.
Good.
And I hope the same is true for Dick Ellsworth.
As have you, and you gave me some good news off the air. You have formed something you've been looking to do for a while. You formed a band to practice with.
Yep, I've formed a new group playing blues on the jazzy side. Right now we're a guitar, bass, drums trio. We're looking for a keyboard player, but if we don't find one, the three of us could do very nicely together just as we are now.
And would you name
We had a good first session last. Well, we haven't thought of a name yet, though I'm kind of thinking about Third Avenue L.
No, name the players themselves. That's a great Third Avenue L. I'll tell you, I grew up on 20th
the Third Avenue L was part of my childhood, thanks to Gun Hill Road.
Well, it ran a long way.
Yeah.
Great
and
name.
Because we couldn't think of anything else to call ourselves yet.
Who are you? Name the players so that they get some podcast time. And
we and John Seelig, no relation whatsoever to former Commissioner Bud Seelig, on the drums.
Beautiful, beautiful. When you put something down, we'll play it on the air.
Well, I think I sent you something from our first session last night.
Oh, nice. I'll look for that, and I'll try to incorporate that into this podcast with my limited talents as an editor. Thank you so much for talking ball with me on a consistent basis. You have an absolutely fertile mind. And like I say, Blumpkin-like, that's the
well, Lord knows people say I'm full of fertilizer.
Okay.
Ralph, always a pleasure.
All right. It always is for me, too. Thank you for listening, everyone. Comfortably Zoned Network, I'm Ralph Tycho. Jeff Kallman is the man. Thanks again, everybody. Adios. The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned Network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.